The New Norm is brought to you by Winning at Home. I'm Steve Norman. Welcome to The New Norm. It doesn't take much to be reminded that we live in a status-driven world. People follow our status on social media. They follow our status by watching what we drive and where we worship and how we dress and where we work and where we went to school. You fill in the blank. People are looking for status markers almost everywhere they go. And it reminds me of a sketch comedy show that was around a while back called Mad TV. And Mad TV had one particular sketch where a grown man would dress up like a 7-year-old boy whose name was Stuart, and he was very needy and he was very attention seeking. And if you've ever seen the show, you know that the line that he said more than anything else was, "Look what I can do." And he would do this little prance, this little dance to try to get everybody's attention. And when the Apostle Paul writes to the Corinthians, he is writing to a "look what I can do" culture. He's looking to a people who are completely hung up on status. They try to define their status through their citizenship or their spiritual connections. In fact, when Paul writes to the Corinthians, he rebukes them for all kind of comparing themselves against one another, saying like, well, my spiritual leader is Paul, or my spiritual leader is Peter, my spiritual leader is Apollos, or the really obnoxious ones who are like, my spiritual leader is Jesus. And they also posture for status through their gifts. They have these supernatural gifts where they can speak in tongues or they can prophesy, and they look around at people and they're like, hey, we're kind of a big deal. And the Apostle Paul says, like, look, if we're going to brag about anything, we should brag about the things that make us weak. In fact, this is what he says in 2 Corinthians 11, verses 22 through 28. He's like, if we're going to compare resumes, I think this is a ridiculous exercise, but if you're going to make me play the game, I'll play the game. He's like, these people who are comparing themselves to me, are they Hebrews? So am I. Are they Israelites? So am I. Are they Abraham's descendants? So am I. Are they servants of Christ? I'm out of my mind to talk like this. I am more. I have worked much harder, been in prison more frequently, been flogged more severely. I've been exposed to death again and again. 5 times I received from the Jews the 40 lashes minus 1. 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I was pelted with stones. 3 times I was shipwrecked. I've spent a night and a day in the open sea. I've been constantly on the move. I've been in danger from rivers, in danger from bandits, in danger from my fellow Jews, in danger from Gentiles, in danger in the city, in danger in the country, in danger at sea, and in danger from false believers. I have labored and toiled and have often gone without sleep. I have known hunger and thirst and have often gone without food. I have been cold and naked. Besides everything else, I face daily the pressure of my concern for all of the churches. Who is weak, and I do not feel weak. The Apostle Paul has just gone on a tear, but he's not. He starts off by bragging about all of the things that would make him imposing in his kind of cultural context. But then he goes on this list of all of the things that are really, really difficult, things that have been hard, things that have brought him pain and trauma and scars. I mean, for him to have been beaten 5 times with 40 lashes minus 1 means that he was beaten publicly within an inch of his life 5 times. 3 times he was publicly disciplined. 1 time he was almost stoned to death. I love it how he refers to multiple times that he's been shipwrecked, even though the book of Acts only records 1. And then in the very next chapter, Paul says this. He's like, look, yeah, I've had all of these wounds. And yes, I've risked my life for the gospel. But God's also been really good to me. And he hints about some really amazing and mystical supernatural experiences that he's had. And he says this in 2 Corinthians 12:7. He goes, because of these surpassingly great revelations I've had, it can be easy for me to get kind of overly spiritually confident. He says, therefore, in order to keep me from becoming conceited, I was given a thorn in my flesh, a messenger of Satan to torment me. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me, but he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses and insults and hardships, in persecutions and in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong. Come back to verse 7 for a second. It says, therefore, in order to keep me from becoming conceited, I was given a thorn in my flesh, a messenger of Satan to torment me. Now, we don't know exactly what the thorn is. We think it's some kind of physical ailment, but we do know this. Paul didn't like it, and he begged God to take it away. And it's also interesting to say that it wasn't like sent by God. It was allowed by God, but its origin was from Satan. And here it's important to remember that Satan only has the leverage or the mobility that God allows him. One British theologian once said this. He goes, Satan can only go to the end of his chain. And if you read the book of Job, there's an interesting exchange at the very beginning where before God allows Job to be afflicted by Satan, Satan actually has to ask God for permission to touch him. So for whatever reason, God allows kind of like a gap in Paul's spiritual armor. He allows him some increased vulnerability so that Satan can inflict pain and discomfort in Paul's life. And I don't know about you, but usually when I'm under some kind of spiritual pressure or attack, my first prayer is, God, save me. God, rescue me. God, deliver me, just like Paul's. And he prays again, he prays one more time, and God is quiet. And then Paul says, maybe instead of a curse, as difficult as this is, this pressure, this trial, this thorn is a window for me to experience God's grace in a new way. And if the thorn is here to keep me from becoming conceited, if it's causing me to be grounded, if it's reminding me to be anchored, if it's prompting me to be humble, then that's a gift. And Paul comes out on the other side of this trial with an insane perspective. Just incredibly spiritually mature, because he says, if God's strength is made perfect in my weakness, then my weakness is the crack through which God's grace gets to break through. And he says, that's why I'm going to delight in weaknesses. If you're at all like me, my guess is that you probably haven't spent a whole lot of time today delighting in your weaknesses or delighting in the insults of others. We live in a world where we have been conditioned to respond quickly and ferociously to the insults of others. But that's not Paul's MO. He goes, I delight in those insults, and I delight in the hardships, and I delight in the persecutions, and I delight in the difficulties, because they remind me that I'm not calling the shots. They're reminding me that I'm not as strong as I want to be in my own flesh. But he says, but when I am weak, then I am strong. So if you see weakness in your life today, don't run from it. Don't mask it. Don't resist it. Look at it as a window or a crack or a portal for God to illuminate something in your life that might need to be addressed that you've been ignoring. And see this current season of challenge as a gift and not a threat. And join Paul in saying, God, your strength is made perfect in my weakness. And I'm so thankful because your grace is always, always, always going to be enough. The New Norm is produced and distributed by Winning at Home. Winning at Home is a faith-based nonprofit committed to making individuals, couples, families, and businesses stronger through counseling and coaching. For more information, visit winningathome.com. I'm your host, Steve Norman. Thanks for listening.